Hello everyone and welcome back. This is part 3 of a 3-part episode on online arbitrage. I'm your host, Joseph Cox, and I'm speaking with Thomas Parkinson, who's an online arbitrage expert. We're speaking about everything to do with online arbitrage and OA businesses. If you missed parts 1 and 2, we'll put links in the show notes below. Enjoy the rest of the show. Cool. Where were we? We've had a coffee break, battery changes, lighting malfunctions. I think we were at the point where we were going to start to talk about how easy it is to start an OA business. I mean, is it easy? And if someone wants to get started, what do they need to do?
I think it's easy. That's why I started it. And I still remember, my God, I think it was like 3.5 years ago when I first met you. I was talking about it all and like why I went down that route. So quite simply, I think the first things to do if you are thinking about starting an OA business is, number one, you need an Amazon selling account. And I'd really recommend getting an Amazon professional selling account, not the single seller one. There are a couple of reasons, I won't go into them now. It's only about £5 more per month. And that will give you access to download the app on your phone. And then on top of that is to quite simply just start going online, going through products on Tesco.com or Asda. And what you're looking to do is find the product on Tesco or Asda, find that same product on Amazon. And then there's another app you can use, or not an app, it's a free calculator called the Amazon Revenue Calculator. If you Google it, you'll find that. And you can basically just put in the buy and sell price and it will show you all the fees. The one thing you need to consider if you are starting is you need to add 20% extra to the fees, which is VAT. And again, talk to Joe, top tip there, add 20% onto the fees, and then obviously it will show you your profit. Now, that's it really. And then once you've found something that works, and obviously you want to try and find things which have what's known as a low best sellers rank. So anything below 100,000, as a rough rule of thumb, should be okay. Don't really want to go above 100,000. If you go below 100,000, you should be right. And what you might want to do is just buy 1 or 2 units to test the idea. You know, it sounds interesting, so you buy a couple of units, ship them in. Yes, you're not going to make money on that after all the fees, but what you're trying to do is just prove proof of concept. And you can do that in a few weeks. That's really simple.
And so on that note, if someone's getting started, how much money should they set aside to do this project? Should it be £500? Well, I'll let you answer that.
Cool. Well, I think the question I'd always ask is, test it first. So exactly what I just said, and what you're really interested in is understanding if the model works for you. You know, there are a lot of people who tried this and said it's not really what I want. Some people do want it, and it works really well. So number one, test it and don't spend very much initially. Why? Because you want to understand all the stages. And if you go and invest £500 in one product straight away and you've misunderstood one part of the stage, that could have quite a big financial impact. But if you've only bought 1 or 2 units, yeah, you're not going to make money, but the idea is that you now understand the whole process from start to finish. But once you understand that, as much money as you can, that you're willing to, and I say this, is as much money as you're willing to lose, and I say that you shouldn't expect to lose it, but in business is inherently risky. There is never a business that's 100% guaranteed, and I'm never going to sit here and say Amazon 100% guaranteed. Now, you shouldn't lose money. If anything, you're probably going to sell it and make a break even and get your money back. That's the worst case scenario. But you just got to remember that you've got to be careful, and obviously you're not going to get your life savings and put this on Amazon, because that would just be silly. So quite simply, understand the process, and then as much money as you're willing to risk, and then continue that process. And obviously the more you're comfortable with the process, the more you can invest.
So on that note of losing money,
yeah.
How frequently do you see people lose money, and how frequently do you lose money on a product?
Great question. And I'd probably say I probably lose money on products, maybe, if I'd be honest, probably every few days. But the question you've got to ask is that in the grand scale of the whole business, am I losing money? The answer is no. There are going to be products which I bought, you know, we do that whole buy low, sell high. Now, we don't know the future, and at the time we buy it, it's a good, profitable deal, but unfortunately maybe we made a wrong judgment call and we're spreading our risk across multiple products, but maybe one of those products wasn't a good purchase. And as a result, we have to take a small loss on it just to clear the stock. So that I'm happy with, because in the grand scheme of the whole business, we make money, and that's fine. And that's just part and parcel of doing business.
So you sell it for a loss?
Yep.
Are you not tempted to hold on to it with the hope of it kind of making profit? I mean, and do you, what are your thoughts on that? Do you not, why don't you hold on to it for longer? Because I would imagine it's quite cyclical, right? Loads of people have probably seen a deal, bought it, so it's flooded the market. Eventually that should change.
Yeah. So there's a really good tool called Keeper, which shows you historic pricing. Now, we will base the majority of our future predictions based on that historical data. Now, it might be the case that our historical data always showed that it was fine, and then all of a sudden the market conditions have changed. Let's say, for example, if we are selling on Amazon, and historically Amazon as a seller has never been on this product, and it was always selling for £20. But all of a sudden today, when we've shipped in, Amazon now comes on the listing, and they're selling for £10, or maybe like £15. And we've looked at their stock and we see that they've got 999 units because they've now got an agreement with the manufacturer. And we're thinking they're probably not going to sell out, they're going to keep selling. So we're always weighing up, should we wait? And certainly sometimes we do, but also we're saying, what's the likelihood of that happening? And sometimes we say, look, we're going to take a loss. But also for me and my business, what is my model? My model is about high turnover, volume of stock. Whereas some people will very much happily wait it out because that's what their model, that's how they run their business.
How quickly do you get your products to Amazon? So from the moment of purchasing them, how quickly can you get them listed and sold?
So if you want to know, I have a report, and my report has recently just told me that because of changes in staffing, we've hired a new person who deals with logistics. We've now gone to 16 days. So this is from the moment we buy a product or spend £1, how long does it take on average for that product to then go live on Amazon? 16 days. We used to be about 9 days. And this is, you've got to think, it gets from the supplier to my warehouse check it in inventory, then they consolidate it and ship it out to Amazon. Amazon unpack it, put it on the shelf. Sometimes things move around in Amazon's warehouses. And then it's live on the website. So it used to be about 9, now it's about 16, and we'll get it back down. So pretty quick, I'd like to think, 9 days, a week and a half. That's a pretty quick turnaround on spending money and getting it on sale.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Just to move off the topic of OA slightly, is there a reason that you didn't? You mentioned earlier that you were considering doing private label. So what was the reason that you didn't go ahead with private label and that you did OA?
Well, obviously, great question, and because you answered the question before, so I just explained that OA, I'm getting products, spending money, getting it on sale on Amazon within 9 days. Now, typically with private label or branded, you are buying from China and then obviously importing it into the UK and getting it on sale on Amazon. Now, a lot of the time that might already be manufactured, but it might need to be manufactured in China. And the typical time frame from spend to live on Amazon, most people talk about is 3 months. You know, sea freight, it takes time. So as a result, if you think about it, if I'm getting something on sale in 10 days, and if Amazon, if you're doing it through private label, and that's taking 3 months, that's 90 days, I can then, in theory, buy and sell mine a lot quicker and repeat that money, compound that money, whereas in private label you can't. The time frames are much, much longer. So hence why OA was far more interesting to me.
Are you ever tempted to go back into, or to try and attempt private label?
Not really. And the reason why I ask is I say this to everyone in business, whether you're doing e-commerce, anything, is what's the value you bring? You know, if you are just doing what everyone else does and there's not something that you feel you have a passion about, or that you have something which, it drives you, is to say you're probably not going to do that great. Like, there's so many other people just doing it. But if you have a real passion behind something, or if you have a real USP, the value you add, then that's going to give you a competitive advantage. So for me, I look at myself and go private label, where is the value, where's the competitive advantage? And I really don't see it. I might do, but right now, no.
Okay. And one final thing on the actual OA itself and selling products. do people need to look at advertising? Because Amazon ads are like huge for me and my clients. I see a lot of people spending a lot of money on it.
Yeah.
But they're mainly private label sellers. Do online arbitrage sellers need to use advertising, or?
You can, but you don't need to at all. So to put it in perspective, last month I did about £35,000 in revenue on Amazon, and I spent 0 on advertising. So the way online arbitrage, predominantly wholesale and RA works is that we are already going on to listings. We are selling products which already have sales velocity, and we are tagging in on that sales velocity. But it's to say that you might find a product which maybe isn't selling so well, but you can get an amazing margin on it, and we have a few that actually might say, I want to increase the sales. So what do? You just put some ads behind it and help drive that revenue. So you can, but you don't need to.
Okay.
Cool.
Now I think that's it from me on OA. I think we've covered a lot. If there's any questions that I've missed, leave a comment below. I'll definitely get Tom back to do another interview and to cover any of those questions. Are there any things that you think I've missed, or that people getting started with OA should be thinking about?
I think you've asked lots of questions. The only thing I'd probably say is if you are interested at all, obviously I talk about OA all the time, that's what I do. So if you're interested, obviously check out my channel, Fast Track FBA, and obviously you can see all about my journey, but also I have some like playlists which are around getting started and just the step-by-step guides. So if you are interested, you can see that and see the whole process from start to finish, and hopefully that's going to help you out as well.
And you've also got a Facebook group.
Yep.
That's quite responsive as well from what I hear.
Yeah.
Are you still accepting people in it? Or?
Yeah, definitely. We've got about 1,000 subscribers on that, and that's Fast Track FBA again. And we've actually, if you want to know, we've got a UK one and a USA one, because they are slightly different in what they look at and how they work. So, talking about different marketplaces. So obviously join the right one, but myself and my team are always in those Facebook groups, lots of communication and just answering questions. And ultimately, why do we have them? Because we want to give back, we want to help. That's it. And share the journey and support people in their businesses.
Brilliant. One more.
Go for it.
No, just really. Probably pretty important for someone getting started. What other costs are there to consider? So you mentioned that you've got the actual seller account. If you get an accountant, that's going to be a cost. Are there any other costs aside from buying the products that they need to be aware of? Because people getting started, it's something they need to think about.
Interesting question. So it depends what you want to do, and I would probably recommend to anyone thinking about starting a business, keep your costs low. It's really easy to sign up to all the fun, exciting, flashy things, but most of it you probably can get away with not doing. So again, you're going to need an Amazon seller account, definitely. Obviously talked about an accountant as well. The question is, are you going to prep yourself, or are you going to use a prep center? If you're going to use a prep center, that's a cost, and generally per unit cost, and you can factor that in. If you're doing it yourself, you're going to need boxes, sticky tape, bubble wrapping, labels, for example. The other things which I might recommend are, there's some really good calculators out there. We talked about Amazon Seller Central, Amazon Revenue Calculator. It's good, it's not brilliant because it's made by Amazon, it doesn't include the VAT. So there are some really good calculators you can use, and they just make the whole process quicker, and they give you an idea of that third metric, the sales, so how many sales per month they're doing. I talked about Keeper. I really like that. I think it's a very valuable, very complex, and I do some free YouTube training on it, so I recommend that. And then you can go down routes of like repricing software, it changes your prices automatically, and obviously accounting software and et cetera, But I think generally speaking, core costs, Seller Central, your accountancy fees, and then obviously your prep, and you can get away with that. That's it. That's all you need. And then just get the process going.
And just to say, with the accounting fees, not to plug that, and not to shoot myself in the foot, but I will. You don't actually need an accountant initially to begin with. If you're a sole trader, and what I tell people when they get in touch with us and they're getting started is that, to be honest, you can wait for 6 to 9 months sometimes, because it's better that you focus on your business, reinvesting the money in the business, than paying an accountant. But for us, we would rather work with more successful businesses long term than working with someone, bleeding them dry, and then getting them out the door. I know I keep saying last question, but on prep centres, how do their fees typically work? Because if someone's getting started and they send 2 boxes in of goods, would they be charged, is there like a kind of fixed fee element on like a subscription fee, or are they only charged for those 2 boxes?
So interesting enough, a lot of prep centers will do it whereby they will do maybe like the first month free, exactly the same as, talking about when you first start on Amazon, they just want to help you get through the journey because they appreciate that if they help you in those first couple of items, that will allow you to understand it and then your business is going to grow. So generally fees wise, excluding VAT, so you need to add 20% to this, 35p up to about £1 per unit. Now, if you're doing small volume, it's probably going to be closer to the pound. If you're doing high volume, it'll be close to 35p. But it just allows you to factor in that into your cost quite simply. Oh, I'm making £3 profit on this, minus my £1 for prep fee, £2 profit. Okay, that's fine, that works. So, but they will manage everything for you. And actually it's quite a good way just to start. So you don't have to go out and spend all the money on the bubble wrap that you might not actually need. Yeah, I do think you need to prep yourself at some point, even if it's just like the odd box, just to understand the process. But outsourcing to a prep center, definitely, yeah, like get that out. There's no need to do it. You don't add value in prepping. And the same thing is like, I don't add value in my business by doing the accounts. I give that to you, you do the accounts, and then what do? I go out there and find more opportunities to make money. That's it.
Brilliant. Well, that was actually the last question. So thank you so much. I know that you've got about 6 other interviews lined up across the UK today before you jet back to Vietnam. So yeah, thank you so much, Tom, for coming in. And we're going to put links to all of your various groups and channels. We'll definitely be in touch again because I've got to do your accounts.
Cool.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And that's the end of part 3 of our 3-part series on online arbitrage. If you're somehow here and you've missed part 1 and part 2, we'll put the links to those in the show notes below. I really hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. If you've got any questions about online arbitrage, please make sure you leave them below. Both Tom and myself will look and we will be responding to any additional questions that there are.